Hello everyone, I guess you're hopefully having a wonderful day. We are back again with another PWCC Weekly Review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auction off of this week. As always, if you enjoy the videos, do make sure to leave a like, would appreciate it greatly. Also, I have a PWCC link down below now. Honestly, I don't really know what it does. I have to investigate further and ask them. I went through the steps of the partner program, but obviously this channel's never really been about making money. It is a nice, fun side thing that if you guys want to use it, it would help the channel. Again, I'll get more info on that as we go. But yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So we've gotten on over to PWCC. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the highest bar we've ever seen, which is weird because a lot of it is because we'll see some more bars as we continue to get going. But yeah, $420 to get into this weekly. Super, super high standard. We start with an SGC 8 Messi rookie. This is about what they go for, a little bit lower than PSA typically goes for, but reasonable since it's SGC. I do like the look of these SGC slabs with this white card. Makes sense where it landed. Titularis 1958 Garrincha, a PSA 6, super strong grade for this. Pop one a 6 and not higher. We've seen these go before, typically around 500, so this is, again, within that range. Out of 25, Darwin Núñez. PSA 10 goes for 432. I'm pretty sure he's one of the rookies that has barely any rookies, so this is a very notable one for him. We have a Topps Finest Ronaldo, super low price. I mean, I saw 430 on a Ronaldo sticker, and I was sort of shocked, but at the same time, it's Finest, it's Juve kit, it's a BGS 8, it's a cracked slab, so there's a lot going against it. Holland PSA 9 goes for 444. Wanted to look this up because you don't see them that often. I mean, to be honest, you see some numbered stuff, but usually those go pretty big. In this scenario, we have the last 6 months of this graph, which for some reason I guess we can't see. Let me go ahead and zoom on out there. That still doesn't do the trick. Okay. I guess we'll just have to do this for today. I'm not sure why it's being weird, but yeah, move the screen over, all worked out. Over the last year, down 50%, and the floor has sort of fallen out since March. These were $800, and yeah, now down to $520, so a super big drop off there. Of course, all the time, we all know what that graph looks like, so really no reason behind it. I guess, you know, if we want to see what they originally were before the boom in 2020, these were $500 to $600, so they're back to 2020 pricing. We have a Pedri, a 1 of 1 here, going for nearly the same price. Above that, I do find this kind of interesting. You have an Erling Haaland PSA 10 that goes for $456 of the foosball. Would you rather have the foosball or the refractor Topps Chrome Bundesliga? Me personally, probably go with the Bundesliga, if I'm being honest. 94 Deportivo, hand cut PSA 6 goes for $456. This was a pretty low price, especially compared to what we've been seeing lately. But there is an even higher grade later on, so we'll take a look at that price discrepancy in terms of what that's been selling for in the past and what it sold for today. PSA 278 crack goes for $500. Not a really strong price. We did have some pretty strong prices for this card last week. I guess sticker, you get the idea. Anyways, last week, decently strong prices. This week, a 2 goes for $500. Pretty off-center, which I understand, but the registration's pretty good as well. I like the picture, so it seems like a fun buy. PSA 8 Vava from the Alifa set goes for $500. Pop 1 of 4, none higher. So, of course, this is where you have the massive Pele that in high grades does crazy numbers. The way I'm thinking of it, I mean, a PSA 8 Pele probably does a few $100,000. So if you're someone that has the PSA 8 Pele and you want to put together a set, or maybe even a different Pele and you want to put together a set, I mean, this is a, you know, steep discount. Of course, not a rookie. Of course, it's Vava, all this stuff. But if you're putting together the team, I mean, 500 doesn't seem crazy. Mazzola, 1947 Baldini. I've never seen this one before, but did look it up. There was only one comp. I think it was for the same grade, maybe the same sticker. I'm not quite sure, but that was nearly the same price just a couple months ago. So nothing too stunning going on there. Really nice looking sticker, though. This one, not so much. You have the, well, I mean, in theory, it should be really good looking, but this one is not. The 61 Francesco Eusebio Authentic goes for $500, which is just interesting in the sense that typically these go for super strong numbers. All of the Eusebio rookies do because they're all so rare. But this one, at least in its true form, is one of the most beautiful to me. I think the colors are just astounding. To be able to get one for $500, you know, it seems like a fun time. Obviously, you're not getting the best condition out there, but at the same time, it's a Pop 1 of 1/7 graded higher, so there's not a ton of options. 2020 Mosaic Stained Glass Mbappe. We also have a Zito PSA 8 going for a little bit more than the Vava we saw prior. I think this Mazzola is a rerun. I could be wrong. It's actually a really new cert, but we saw one run recently, so maybe it's the other PSA one, maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's similar in price. This Van Basten PSA 10 goes for $600. Want to look this one up. It's a Pop 1 of 7. You don't see a lot of them run. Last PSA 7 did $450, and the one before that did $1,100. Before that, we go back to 2015, where it was nearly $200. So I mean, doesn't seem crazy. I mean, comparing to 2015, it's up 3x, which is a good premium, but 2014 has a much bigger narrative now than it did then. And of course, time's gone on. Compared to the $1,100 sale, obviously a bit low, but compared to the last sale at $450, it is up like, 20-30%, so not too shabby. Next to that, we have this PSA 8 Monday Chromo. I will say this seems like kind of a deal. I mean, if you're a Messi rookie buyer at this point, seems relatively, affordable in the sense that his PSA 8s of the Mega Cracks team set go for like $500 a piece, and that's a team release that has a few different Messis, right? This is a league release that has one Messi. I guess you have the top league as well, which, is a little bit different, but realistically, this Monday Chromo, at least to me, should mean a good bit more than the Mega Cracks team set, so it's a standout in that regard. I also thought that this was decently centered. I mean, off a little bit left to right, but for an 8, it's not terrible, so 600 seems like a deal. Typically, these are 600 to 800, so that's on the lower end of it. Maradona 2020 Chronicles, PSA 8 Auto, goes for 630. Above that, and this is going to be the start of what is going to be many. We have a lot of ultra-modern stuff, some that's fairly easy to comp, some that you're not going to have any clue to comp. So this one of one Rashford goes for 660. Fun to see. Don't really have much intel beyond that. This gold laser Neymar, though, was sort of a standout to me, at least scrolling through. It catches the eye. Gold laser, pretty cool. Obviously, it's not your out of 10 gold that everyone's going to be hunting, but the price doesn't match that. This goes for 660. I believe we'll actually see the out of 10 gold later, if I remember correctly, so we'll see how that does. Also PSA 10, so I mean, assuming grading premiums matter, which they might not as much on this type of card, a PSA 9 would go for like 200, 250. If that was the case, I mean, this seems like a deal, but at the same time, Neymar's not the hottest name, so I sort of understand that as well. Jalma Santos, spelled a little differently there, but goes for 660 and a PSA 8. Again, super high grade, so going to get a big number. You have a 44 Leonidas. There we go. Someone in the Discord threw that out there, so now I can pronounce it correctly, which is great. I'm a bit of a pronunciation snob, so when I can improve, I am more than happy. This PSA 1, though, goes for 720. We've seen some of these run before, I think a little bit higher than this, but not a crazy discount. This also doesn't look that great, at least on the front. There's some rub here and there, but it's a 1. That's going to happen. SGC 9 Lionel Messi here goes for 750, so not a crazy premium over the 8 we saw earlier. The 8 was a less desired card of the Mega Cracks team cards, so at least to me, this implies, you probably get a 50% premium going from an 8 to 9, which isn't the same as PSA. Typically, PSA, you almost double, so that's just something that, catches my eye. Seedorf here, PSA 9 goes for 750, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Another PSA 9 here of a, I guess, vintage? Is this vintage? I don't know. To me, this is almost the beginning of vintage. Once you get to 80s, 85, you get Baggio, Maldini. Could say pre-modern, though. Nonetheless, PSA 9 here goes for 750. And I want to check comps. I actually looked at the gold laser on the Neymar earlier. It's down 50% from the last sale, so just throwing that out there. If we do look, though, beyond that, we have this Maldini. Last one sold for 600, and that was actually a rerun. It sold for 700, allegedly, beforehand. But, up a little bit, like 20% from the last sale. Before that, though, it was, lingering between 1,000 and 2,000, so it's coming up from the low. We have a 1 of 1 Eric Cantona, post-playing career. I don't feel great about numbered stuff post-playing career, but that's me. If you're a collector, you do you. 2017 Galactic PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo Stargazing goes for 810. I actually bought one of these recently on one of these reviews, so mine went for 660, so this is up a little bit from there, but they typically bounce around a little bit. So pop 1 of 13, it's the most abundant in a PSA 10, so it's going to be the lowest number. We'll see a couple others later in this auction. This one sort of struck me, I mean, to be honest, like $1,000 in soccer, it's hard to say that something is low at that price. But when you talk about 2014 Prizm, to me, Neymar's sort of the third guy that comes to mind, given that Brazil hosted the World Cup and Neymar obviously being the star of the team at that time. And this being a parallel that really fits with Neymar, I thought it was going to do good numbers. And maybe this is. To be honest, I'll look this one up. Yeah, so I went really specific with my search here, so there might be some comps I'm missing, but basically the first comp was 2,100 for a BGS 9. This BGS 9 now goes for 930, so a huge drop off from there. Last 9.5 sold sort of around the 2022 World Cup for 3,600, so again, pretty big drop comparatively. To me, really cool card. One of the standouts of 2014 Prism in my eyes. I guess if you're a Neymar or a Brazil fan, though, you know, there's probably not great memories associated with this World Cup. So while it is a cool card, I can also understand maybe not having the luster for it that others might. 1960 Tupinamba, so this is pretty interesting because it is the first, I think, that I've seen a 1960 slab here for the Tupinamba Quiggle. This goes for 930, which I will say before we look at the comp, it does look really bad on the front. Like, there's some paper loss type of features going on like his nose and sort of the collar. But most importantly, there's also like staining around the outside. Nonetheless, you can explain it however you want to, but the comp is still super low. If we look at these last few comps here, 930, 2,000, 3,000, 3,100, 5,400. Actually, sorry, this Tupinamba is different. This is a 59 that, not the same. So take that out. But in 2022, a PSA 1 sold for 7,500. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a really nice looking one, so I get that. But 2022, as we've mentioned before, is sort of around where things started to even out, and this has not at all. This is dropped like a bag of bricks. So, yeah, super low price here. I don't know if that's a sign of more things to come. This also, again, is one of the first slabs that does say 1960, and I do think once you take the Pele items out from the 50s and into the 60s, it does make a difference. I do think that this is still one of the best looking Peles, though, so at least it has that going for it, but it is relatively available compared to some of the more rare 50s Pele, so that's also of note. This felt like a super strong price to me, and as we'll look even further, it kind of was. PSA 7 here for Ronaldinho goes for 960, 2001 foot. These actually don't comp that much, which was sort of surprising to me. As you can see here, there was actually another one that sold on eBay for 960 last night. So whoever lost this auction must have won on eBay and just said, well, I'm going to offer whatever I was going to offer over here to this guy. This guy took it too. So 2 sold for 960 last night, which is a good indicator that both people really wanted that. Now, a PSA 5 before went for 220. So again, I mean, that's not a terrible price. That actually kind of makes the 7 make sense in a way. But a PSA 7 earlier this year did sell for $492, so almost half what it sold for last night. And a PSA 8 sold last year for $870, so a little less than the 7 went for tonight. So, you know, interesting to see. I do find it interesting that there's not that many comps. Like, you see 10 here, and some of these are team stickers, which to me is really interesting in the sense that, you know, you see a lot of like 90s foot stuff, and you see a lot of mid-2000s foot stuff, so why is this one that rare? I don't know if maybe it was a short print in some sense or another, or maybe it's just not all that graded yet. I'm not quite sure, but I thought that was notable. Row above that, you have a 1-of-1 patch here of Cristiano Ronaldo. Also a 1-of-1 Gabriel Jesus, which when I looked at this, I couldn't even tell it was a 1-of-1. I still, honestly, once I opened it up and looked, I couldn't even tell. It has 1-of-1 on the back, but I'm just not familiar with these national landmarks and why the 1-of-1s don't look all that impressive. Maybe it's something that you have to see in hand. I'm not quite sure, but both those go for nearly 1,000. You also have the Showstoppers here, a pop 1-of-2 that goes for 1,100. Feels like a relative deal. The Showstoppers are hard to gem, so to get a pop 1-of-2 for 1,100, while the pop 1-of-13 went for 800, feels kind of light. So good deal there, at least comparatively. Above that, you have this booklet auto. We've seen a good bit of these. You have this triple auto with Maradona, Batistuta, and Dybala. And then you have a Beckenbauer legendary signature here from the 2016 Flawless set out of 5. Goes for 1,200. So some GOAT autos there mixed about. So this is why I thought the foot was sort of expensive. Once I got further in the auction, I was really shocked to see a PSA 6 Ronaldinho rookie go for, you know, maybe a couple hundred over the PSA 7 third-year foot. To me, that was sort of shocking, and I looked at the price to see what these have been going for. They don't really sell all that often, at least in decent grade. I mean, there's a raw one here, an authentic here, a 1 here. Last 5 was in May. That went for $840. Before that, the last grade was a PSA 5 that went for $1,500 on eBay. So, and a BGS 6 earlier this year for $1,000. So we've only seen like 3 or 4 of those sell this year, and this seems to at least be comparatively the lowest price in relation to the other grades. And I just find that interesting. I do think it says, you know, some positive things about Ronaldinho collectors in the sense that, you know, if they're willing to pay that much for third year, it's pretty impressive. But I also wonder if it maybe shows a lack of new Ronaldinho collectors, because I feel like new Ronaldinho collectors would probably take this every single day of the week at this price comparatively to some of the other things you see. Nonetheless, this is going to be the first of many, so this, at least for now, is the highest price I've ever seen for a U.S. card in the auction block. But spoiler, it won't be the highest price for all that long. There will be others. But this is the first of many gold bars. I'm going to sort of just glance over them and not talk about them all that much. They're worth what they are because there's a gold bar in it, an ounce of gold. I think it's like 14 karat or something. Yeah, so they go for the price, plus, you know, if the autos are worthwhile, which this one, not really, then they'll do a little extra. This Zebra Choice Lionel Messi 2022 Prism. Want to take a peek at this just because you don't see it that often, and we don't check out a lot of the 2022 Prisms, but this PSA 9 goes for $1,200. Last PSA 10 did $3,100, so I guess relative to the 10 feels like an okay sale. Last 9 did $1,700 though earlier this year, and then before that $1,600 last year, so it feels like that's at least a little soft. Now again, at least from my perspective as someone that doesn't own any 2022 Prism Messi, there's just so many options. There just is. Like 2014, there's not a ton, obviously, but it feels like there's enough parallels for the collector base, right? There's enough, but there's not too many. 2018, you start sort of pushing the boundary in terms of having a collector base behind that many parallels. Like with Mbappe, I couldn't go through and name all the 2018 Mbappe parallels. I could name some, but there's a lot. Like you got like pink laser, you got gold laser, you got orange, you got this, you got that. There's just so many that don't exist elsewhere. And then in 2022, they just go off the rails. You know, you got 3 different Prism sets, all with their own list, and there's probably like 50 to 100 different parallels. And from that perspective, it's just so hard to know what to buy or what you even want to buy, because you probably want to buy all of it in theory, but you can't, and so it's just so difficult. But yeah, pop one to 10.4 higher. At least it stood out to me. The Zebra, actually, as stupid as it is, stands out to me, because at least with like stripes of an animal, I can remember that, but like, you know, a pink laser, whatever, I can't. So I don't know. 2 gold bars here. Klinsmann, Ansu Fati, take your pick. We have a Lionel Messi here. There's actually a match-worn patch with kind of a piece of the Barca crest there, so that's a cool one, at least from Leaf. You don't get a lot of cool Leaf, but that's a cool Leaf. I do like that they also have to try, because they're one of the lesser brands, so they actually have to get match-worn memorabilia while others kind of get away with it. 3 gold bars here, take your pick. Ricardo Pepi, for now, taking the lead as the highest-selling American ever, which I'm glad there's another one later, because that would be a tough pill to swallow for me. Bergkamp up here at 1410. Here is the 2018 Neymar PSA 9. So this is what I was referencing earlier. It goes for 1400. To me, I was interested because the comparison that came out in my mind was, would you rather have this 2018 gold prism, or would you rather have the combination of the green crystals from 2014 and the gold laser from 2018, wherever that may lie? I can't really find it. There it is. So you could have a PSA 10 gold laser from 2018 and a green crystals BGS 9, or you could have a PSA 9 of the gold prism. And initially for me, it was an easy choice. You know, I think the green crystal and the gold laser would be what I'd pick. But after thinking about it, you know, if you compare the two, the gold prism is almost such a trump card in the sense of like, yeah, but mine's a gold prism. Like the gold prism's obviously better than the gold laser, even if it's a lesser grade. But to me, the green crystal means a bit, but at the same time, you could argue it doesn't. So I don't know. I'm interested what you guys think, at least between that comparison. I probably lean towards taking the 2, but I'm more of a quantity guy rather than the quality guy. I mean, I think they're all quality, to be honest, but nonetheless, red breakaway here out of 99 goes for 1440. This PSA 1 Pog goes for 1440 as well. We saw one go last week, which I thought looked worse for about the same price, so I think that this was a better deal, at least comparatively. It does sort of have this indentation, but the picture overall looks great. And yeah, it's a nice rookie Maradona there. If we look at the front here, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a 1, so there's going to be defects. The back's a little atrocious, but at the same time, it's blank, so you just don't turn it over. But I think that looks really good for 1. Some of those are kind of off sometimes. So a couple more gold bars here. Above that, a few more gold bars. This one, all-time high-selling American. There we go. Christian Pulisic, love to see it. More gold bars, again, take your pick for all the autos. I don't much care. I mean, there's just so many, and it's just doing the price of gold, basically, plus a little bit, so whatever. Black and gold wave, Kylian Mbappe 2018. I did take a peek at this just because, you know, you don't see a lot of those sell on here. PSA 10, last sale was 1500, so right on the dot. Sale before that, 1300, 1700, 2300. Honestly, something that stayed relatively steady. I guess if we go back to the peak of the peak, then not really. But in terms of 2022 and on, it's been fairly steady. But yeah, 2021 was quite the day for 2018 Mbappe Prism. Interesting that this holds, while we'll see another one later that doesn't really hold. Pele BGS9, this goes for 1,500. Did take a peek at comps, and last PSA 8 was 1,100. Before that, PSA 9 was 1,500, so it feels like a fairly decent price relatively. We have a Messi out of 99 Prism from 2014 that goes for 1,500. Again, took a peek at this one. Fairly similar to previous comps. BGS 9 went for 2,000. I guess a decent bit lower than that, but it's a PSA 8. Last PSA 8 did 1,600, and PSA 6 did 1,200, so again, seems fair. Nothing too crazy going on there. I feel like we've seen a lot of purples lately of Messi between this and the World Cup stars. Yeah, this Cruyff does 1,500 in a PSA 2. I looked at comps earlier this week on these Palorexes, and basically the last PSA 1 was a good looking one and went for like 1,200, 1,300. The last 2 was a bad looking 2 and it went for 1,400, 1,500. In my opinion, this is a nice looking front, but the back's a little messed up, but that's to be expected. So 1,500 seems fair. Nice Cruyff there. We have a Figo over here for 1,530. Marco Asensio, don't really know what to say about this one. At least in my mind, like, I know the Neymar Gold is out of 10, but like, there's got to be 10 times as many people that want a Neymar Gold Prism than there are people that want a Marco Asensio. But I also understand that I guess there's one-of-one collectors for these Prism sets specifically, and so, you know, they're going to scoop these types of things up. PSA 8 Beckenbauer multi-language back goes for 1,500. Took a peek. Kind of hard to compare and go through comps because some of them have different backs, different grades, different grading companies. It's a mess. But last PSA 8 with the normal back went for 1,700, so, you know, seems relatively in line, at least in terms of that comparison. We have a Valverde here for 1,600. We have a Batistuta again for 1,600. This Antoine Griezmann goes for more than Neymar, which initially was sort of shocking to me, but once you sit back and think about it, this is a PSA 10, that was a PSA 9, and Griezmann in France won the World Cup, and Neymar did not. So, naturally, I think it makes sense that this does a decent number. Also a pop 1/1, so really cool in that regard. Again, like, you know, I take that every day of the week over the Asensio, but maybe that's me. More gold bars, again. I'm glad that these were in here because it makes the week a little bit quicker. It was such a heavy, hard-hitting week that I would have gone through so many cards had we not had these gold bars, but luckily enough we do. This seemed like a kind of cool one, at least to me. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, World Cup Prism, dual auto, gold. I mean, people like the dual autos, the triple autos, typically when they're goats, so you could say, oh, look at all the goats together. These are Portuguese goats, so a little different, but does 1,600 there. Neymar goes for 17. Okay, by the way, I will say Cristiano Ronaldo is a GOAT. He's a GOAT of GOATs, all right? Don't get that wrong. But Figo, not as much, so it is what it is. Neymar goes for 1,700. We also have an Henry that goes for 1,800. A Kylian Mbappe smack dab in between. National Treasures out of 25 going for 1,800. Every time I see an Mbappe auto, I just think of the days where the Topps Chrome set came out and the box was worth like 10,000 plus, and I'm just like, ugh, just disgusting. This was a super low sale. Kind of shocking initially when I went through the auction block. When we look back at past sales, basically, this one does 1,800. Before that, 3,400 earlier this year, and middle of last year, 7,800 and 8,500 typically. And this was sort of something that was blowing my mind back then, was how high the 8s were selling, despite the like 5s and 6s not selling that well. There was also an 8 on eBay that sold last year for 5,100, which was a huge discount. I think people sort of threw that out as an anomaly, and then went back to paying higher prices. I'm not quite sure. This is particularly even more shocking considering we saw an 8.5 recently go for 10K just a couple months ago, and then a 9 went right after that for like 15 to 20, something along those lines. So, like, to me, it makes no sense, especially when this is a hand-cut item. There's been a lot of talk about that in the Vintage Discord. If you haven't checked that out, Vintage Discord down below. I enjoy it. It's a fun time. Would recommend. Anyway, I mean, you could, in theory, turn a PSA 8 into a PSA 9. Now, it's not going to be easy. There's some risk. There's this, there's that. But, like, if you look at the record Pele, the 9 doesn't get a crazy premium. Like, it gets a decent premium, but not a 10x premium. I don't think I rarely think that 10x premiums are warranted by a jumping grade, let alone on this one where we've seen tons of high grades come out, and it's a hand-cut issue. To me, I mean, the 8,000 seems really light, I will say that, comparatively. But at the same time, these have been coming out a lot, so you don't really know where this falls. Ultimately, a fun and nice-looking Ronaldo, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean, a really good price comparatively to what we've been seeing, and at least more in line. Like, this makes sense to me because we saw what the 6 did earlier, and the 8 should have a good premium. I feel like in the past it's been a little out of whack, so this seems more sensible to me. We have a 2022 Vinny Gold Bar for $18.60. This was an interesting one. So grade comparison, this doesn't seem like a big premium. A 2.5 only going for $500 more than a PSA 1. Kind of head scratching, but when you go and look at the POG, it makes total sense. So yeah, I mean, like the back's not messed up. We look at the other back, right? So the back's clean, which is why this gets a good grade in the first place. But my word, you know, could the focus and the color overlay be any worse? I mean, like, you can see so much yellow coming out onto his shirt. You can't even put together his face. I mean, it looks like nightmare fuel to me. It's just a brutal look. So if you're collecting grades, you know, seems like a good price for the grade. If you are collecting pogs slash stickers slash cards, that looks brutal. But $2,000 it is. Gold David Beckham goes for $22.50. 71 bits going for $2,300. A BGS 6.5 seems about fair in terms of what these have gone for in the past. This one I did take a peek at. 2014 red matchups. Last sale went for $2,200. Sale before that raw went for $410. That sort of struck me. You know, that had to have been a deal because when you go and look at other things, I mean, $2,600. A PSA 8 even goes for $1,200. A 10 goes for $9,000. But I guess comparatively to the 9, it's about smack dab where it should have been. More gold bars here with the sticker Auto Pele. Got a full Brazilian row here with a 1940 Leonidas here in a 1-5. Don't see many of these once you get into, I mean, once you're in the 40s and especially early 40s for Brazil, it is very, very hard to find stuff. And so this is a pop 1 of 1 and higher that goes for $3K. Not a rookie. I think his rookie's like 4, 5, maybe 6 years earlier, but again, it's super hard to find things once you get here, so they're going to do good prices. Pele World Cup Stars does $3,100. Took a peek at this because in theory we could find some comps, and we did. Last gold vinyl in a PSA, well, I say gold vinyl, gold power. This in a PSA 9 did $8,000. The prior PSA 10 or PSA 8 out of 10 gold did $2,000 actually in 2023. So this is up quite a bit. Now, if you do go back, there were some higher sales. Like in 2021, this went for $7,300. I don't know if this is the same cert. I always hate being nosy, but you might as well. Okay, not the same cert. So down a decent bit from highs, but you know, not the worst hit out there. Up a little bit compared to, you know, a year ago. So it depends what perspective you want to take. Again, more modern grails, I guess. I mean, at these prices, you would assume they're grails. Lewandowski, a gold power PSA 10 goes for $3,200. Didn't even bother looking at comps on that because you're probably not going to find any. This one I did. BGS 9.5 Mbappe goes for $3,300, and the comps were pretty shocking. I mean, in terms of last sales, $5,400, $7,800, $8,700, and peaks out at $10,000 and $17,000 at the very bottom. So this one has just continued to drop, and even since 2022. In 2022, this was selling between $5,500 and almost $8,000. Now it's at, you know, a little under $3,500. So again, pretty, I mean, decent decline. Part of me thinks that it's because in terms of 2018 Prism, like, is this a standout parallel? That's sort of the interesting part, is a lot of cards that don't have different parallels, their floors have sort of been tested. But in a sense of looking at the parallels of cards, once you break off a card into like 50 other types of cards, then each one has to stand its own sort of test. And in terms of, you know, what's drawing you to this orange? Are you putting together a run of Mbappe? I mean, probably not many people are trying to put together the full set of Mbappe colors. So what's drawing you to orange? I just don't really think that there is something there. Of course, you know, it is 2018 Mbappe. It's Prism. It's a numbered card. It's cool in that regard, but at the same time, I don't think the orange speaks to anyone in particular. Also, I will say it's a min gem as well, so that does affect it. A 9 on centering, 9.5s elsewhere, so you could look at it as a PSA 9. Then we have a 2018 on-card Lionel Messi out of 99 that goes for $3,500. Pretty decent price there. I will say again, one of the autos that, at least in my mind, doesn't look a lot like Messi's other autos for whatever reason. You know, his autos don't look like that, but this one does, so just interesting to note. In this one, you got 2 gold power Mo Salahs going for $3,600 and $5,600. So the National Landmarks takes quite a premium here. In terms of design, I do like the 2018 Prism design. I actually think it is the best World Cup design. I don't know if that's controversial. I don't like the design of 2014. I really don't. I don't think 2022 is all that special. So to me, 2018 is probably the best. Obviously, people like their Landmarks as well. taking a peek here, we have some comps to go off of. So the last PSA 9 of the Gold Power Prism went for, what was that, 1,800. So BGS 9.5 at 3,600 feels kind of strong, or at least, you know, like a good sale. If we go further back, it won't look like a good sale. Spoiler. I guess back here, what, a BGS 8 went for 1,500. And a BGS 9.5 went for 4,700. Now this is a Gem Plus grade with a 10 on edges, so I guess that's notable. But not really too much of a dip on these. Obviously, you know, very hard to find and sort of grails for most solid collectors, so, you know, not going to be easy by any means. It seems like they both went for, you know, pretty respectable prices. I mean, almost $9 grand combined. In the middle of those two, you have the Cristiano Ronaldo here. I'm unsure why the slab here says Cristiano with the CH. Seems like a, you know, a little bit of a typo there, but nonetheless, this PSA 10 goes for nearly 5,000. Pop a 1 of 5, so this is the base card of the set in a Galactic Parallel. Super, super hard to get. In terms of past comps, we only have one, and that's from 2019, and it went for 1,300. This has always been something that sort of struck me with Galactics, is how much they were worth even pre-boom. I mean, this was a 1,300 card in 2019, which is almost unheard of in terms of modern, so pretty impressive. Up, you know, almost 4x off of the pre-boom pricing, so still a decent premium, but you know, within the range of what you'd expect. It's not anything that's out of line, even though it is still a big number. And as a Galactic fanboy myself, they do look really good in hand. This picture doesn't do it justice. If you had them in hand, you'll know. Beyond that, top 3. Again, I mean, I guess these are a little bit more than gold bars, aren't they? They are gold bars with goats on them. We also have the Mia Hamm here. I think we've seen one of these try to sell recently. I don't know if this is the same one. It's a recent cert, which it doesn't really change my opinion either way. I can't really draw anything from that. But all to say, I think we've seen this go before. Maybe not. I'm unsure. But 7,500, good price, it would seem. When we look at these two, I'm kind of shocked that the Messi does this close to the Ronaldo. I know that, I guess, in terms of Messi World Cup 2022 stuff, this probably isn't the thing that comes to people's minds, so maybe people aren't going to go out and pay a crazy premium on this. Also, you know, card collectors, do they really want gold in their card? I think they do, honestly. I think a lot of them do. But in terms of this, I find it interesting that this only gets, you know, maybe a 50-60% premium over the Ronaldo. You know, the World Cup win's going to bake in a good amount, but at least to me, it didn't seem all that crazy. I will say, I was also a little surprised that this isn't like the biggest week we've seen in terms of the big hitters, but just collectively top to bottom, this was as big of a week as we have seen. So gold bars definitely help that out, but overall, pretty fun one. And I mean, just so many cool modern cards to look at. I'm interested what they do on auction all together in one go. It seemed pretty respectable, to be fair. I thought, you know, this was an auction block that was just absolutely jam-packed, and there was going to be a lot of things that sort of fell through. It doesn't really seem like that, at least at the high end. Maybe once you get off the top 100, I'm sure there were some things that fell through the cracks, but generally speaking, it seems like they did pretty good numbers. Taking a look at next week, I don't think I've even given this a peek yet. I guess we'll see. When we sort by highest price, we have a PSA 671 Bis, a PSA 3 Aquarella, a purple. So yeah, you can already see the fall off next week is pretty strong. This isn't anything crazy. Another PSA 278 crack. You got a Gold Prism Ronaldo here. Out of 20 camo from 2018 of Messi. You have a 47 Leonidas. You have a PSA 8 Monday Chromo. Okay, I guess a national Cristiano Ronaldo. This actually goes and tries to sell again. We've seen this go recently, but yeah, it looks like next week's going to be one that, there we go. We got a Clint Dempsey, but next week looks like one that if you're not a big fan, you could probably, you know, just hang it up, stay out for a bit. Definitely a nice break after what we've seen this week. So yeah, as always, hopefully you enjoyed. Again, if you did, make sure to leave a like. Would appreciate it greatly. Anything you'd like to tell me in terms of what you thought sold high, low, or anything you bought, would love to see in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.